a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
But I see the validity, and I think we can resolve it.
All right. Let's try to call the special session to order, please.
Okay, we gotta get, Karen's got to work her way up. Everybody else here? Yes. Oh, Steve. There he is.
All right, I'm going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and introductions, as we've already been through that. I would like to do a roll call because if we do get to voting on some of the motions that are on the special session agenda, I want to make sure we have a appropriate quorum. So, Director Rickmeyer, would you do the roll call?
Sure. Vice President McAdam.
Here.
Treasurer Borski.
Here.
Director Nettesheim.
Here.
Director Keiss.
Here.
Director Collins.
Here.
President Foster.
Here.
Director Ruff.
Here.
Director Fimmel.
Here.
And I'm here as well. We have 9 folks here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The agenda was published. There is one item that I would like to include between the two motions. Director Keiss and Director Rickmeyer have looked over the presentation by the architect and engineer and would like to make a very short recap or review of that presentation for those who may not be familiar with that. It would probably take us 5 to 6 or 7 minutes. So if there's no objection to that, we will add that to the agenda.
We'll take 8.
There are no minutes here, so we need not dispense with that. Again, our reminder about behavior that please be civil. We're not interested in having abusive language or behavior towards any member or any member of the staff or any of the volunteers. So please be professional when you come and make your comments. We certainly want to hear those, but please be professional. Okay. On the agenda for the special session, there are 2 motions. We will read each motion as we normally do and allow members that have signed up to speak on those motions. After that, directors will have an opportunity to speak if they wish, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we can take a vote on those motions. The first item of business is a motion to set an access fee at $12,000 per lot that shall be paid by the builder, owner, or developer who desires to construct dwellings and sell those to individuals who would hopefully then qualify to use RCSC facilities. Vice President McAdam, do you want to make your motion?
Okay, well, I can just read it, but it's a rehash of what you said. So I move that the board set the access fee at $12,000 per lot and grant the general manager discretion as to the terms of payment of this fee by a builder, owner, or developer.
All right. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Vice President McAdam, as the maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first for its adoption?
Yes, so I will have to confess to the fact that none of us, I think, had right in front of us the fact that the board is required by Board Policy 24 to occasionally adjust this fee. I want to just explain a little bit about what this is. This is not a fee that is charged to anybody here. It's not a fee that impacts membership here at all. But it turns out that there is occasionally property that's available in Sun City that we do not own. It just belongs, according to the Maricopa County plats or whatever you call them. It's considered to be within the confines of Sun City. And when that is the case, Sun City has the right to charge a builder an access fee. So the builder calculates this into his costs of building, and that fee last, as far as we can tell from research that we looked at, was set at $5,600. So if a builder comes in and wants to build, for instance, at Sunland, he has to buy the property, he has to pay a certain fee to Sun City, the recreation centers of Sun City, in order to be able to build on that plot of ground. We can't stop builders from building on property that doesn't belong to us, but we do have the right to charge them an access fee. This is simply a fee that says if you want to build and you want to build on a property that is then going to be part of the recreation, the members will be members, the owners would be members of the recreation centers of Sun City, that we have a right to charge a fee. It's obviously not appropriate to charge the same fee in 2024 as we charged in 2006. So we've basically sort of just looked at a time value here and established this fee. We're recommending that it be $12,000, which means that a builder who builds on property where eventually homes will be, whose owners are members of Sun City, that will be taken into consideration as part of the costs of building. So we are basically just fulfilling our duty to adjust that amount to represent sort of the time value of money compared to 2006.
May I ask Mr. McCurdy to maybe make one clarification, as not to bore you with accounting, but when those funds come in, how will they be accounted for?
Yeah. Director Foster, we have an access fee line on our income statement that will be revenue in the period that we collect that money.
So it is non-recurring revenue.
Correct.
It goes in the current year's budget.
Financials.
Financials.
Yep.
But it would offset or add to any surplus or deficit that the budget might be running in that particular calendar year.
Correct.
All right. So, and it does not, as Director McAdam was saying, nobody in this room or your friends or neighbors are impacted by this. This is something that is completely external to us, but the revenues do come back to RCSC.
Correct.
All right. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the names of members who signed up to speak on this motion?
Okay, when I read your name, please come up and state your name and member number, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is the clock up there? Yeah, and that'll be on the clock up there. The first person is John Nowakowski.
And John, before you start, we have a very long list of folks who want to speak on things today. So I hate to say this, but I think we need to limit it to 3 minutes without repeats coming back, because there are so many folks. And by the way, if you're being called and you hear the person in front of you basically say the same thing you said, perhaps you just come up and say ditto or something like that. We're going to be here till dinner time. Otherwise, there are a lot of folks who are requesting to speak, which is wonderful. We want to hear that, but please don't waste a lot of time if you don't feel like you're adding anything above and beyond what someone else has already said. I would appreciate that part. Go.
Question. Can the board, in an effort of transparency and being open, give a summary of how it came to this point of making the motion here? No. Other alternatives, how it came to this decision, so we can be more informed in responding and speaking?
Well, okay, so hang on, John, just a second.
Sure.
So the question is, how did we get to this point? And, I'm sorry? Yes, and so in full transparency, here's the deal. So as Director McAdam was explaining, the board policy does require that the boards has to set this fee for whenever these occasions come up. There's not a lot of land left within the Sun City boundaries that has not already been developed. But there is a little piece down in the southern corner that is now being pursued by a developer, and they would like to be able to market those homes at some point in time as being available, that they could participate in RCSC facilities and amenities. That allows RCSC to say, fine, you can do that, but there's a price. Why is there a price? Because you guys have already bought into the club. These are your facilities. You have the right to use those facilities first. If somebody else wants to come in, that's fine, but we need to be compensated for that. And the first line of compensation is this access fee that is charged to the builder, so that they're allowed to market the home that they eventually tried to sell, that the occupant can then go apply for a rec card, and as long as they're in good standing, use our facilities. We good?
I would just like to, hello?
It's on now. It's on now.
Oh, okay, there we go. So I would just like to add one thing to this. So there is the fee that a builder would pay to Sun City to have the right to build on the property. Anybody who then subsequently purchased this property is subject to the exact same fees as anybody who buys property in Sun City. So the purchaser of that property pays a PIF, pays a SIF, pays the annual assessment, just like everybody else does.
Thank you, that is correct. John?
Thank you. John Nowakowski, 157134. Thank you for those explanations. As you said, President Foster, there's one parcel of land that's been approved recently by the county for development. And the fee sounds good, and all of this sounds really, really interesting, and it sounds like a deal that we can't pass up, except for one minor little detail on that parcel of property. A couple of things that when the county approved that final plat that were not on that plat. Number one, there is no senior citizen overlay. There's no age overlay on that parcel of property for 89 homes. Now there is the overlay for the airport, Luke Air Force Base. There's some other stuff about the parcel being some kind of geological issue, but there's no overlay on that final plat. So it was approved without that overlay. Another issue on that final plat was that the school district for that parcel is Peoria School District. I kind of find that interesting. So here we are talking about an access fee by a developer to us for the RCSC. Another minor little detail. After that plat was approved, that developer turned around and removed the condominium requirements of that plat. So now those are just lots. Those lots are very small. The probabilities of that being something other than rentals is pretty high. So if I understand this correctly, what'll happen is we get an access fee from the developer. Those lots aren't sold, so we don't get any other fees on top of that. Yet the people that move in would have the right to use our facility irrelevant of age. We fought for how many years to make this a senior citizen community? And here we are looking at 89 homes, and for $12,000, we will let those people use our facilities because we can. I'm sorry, folks, but I think that's a little bit backwards from where we are as a community. Thank you.
Go ahead, Director Borski.
John, I've had these same questions in my mind. I don't have enough information. But a question to Kevin, I haven't been on the board that long. Do we have the right to tell the builder what they can and can't build on our property, on Sun City property?
On their property.
Director Borski, I don't believe we do.
Can we influence?
If you go through the same kind of political process anybody else would that has an issue with the development.
We would have to go through the county and get age overlays and all that kind of stuff.
Well, to respond to that, we had that same question because when you look at the 1977 Sun City Master Plan, it's very unclear whether that little piece of property between 99th and the boundary, which is bounded by Olive, was part of that master plan. I can tell you that there's two 55-plus apartment complexes on that same plot of land, and we asked for clarification from the county, the planning department, whether that particular chunk at 99th and Olive was part of the master plan, and the feedback, written feedback that we got from the county was that it was part of the Sun City Master Development Plan.
Is that apartment complex there, do they have privileges?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
The residents of those two apartment complexes can get
Privilege cards?
privilege cards, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. McCurdy, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that that has an age overlay on that piece of ground, to your knowledge?
I assumed that if it was part of the Sun City Master Development Plan, that it would, but I will double check on that.
All right.
Kevin, do we have the ability, if that is not part of the age overlay, to not have them charge the $12,000 so that they don't get, so that whoever buys those homes doesn't have the ability to use facilities and affect our age overlay as a community?
We could tell the developer that we're not going to, allow them to have those homes be part of Sun City, I believe, or RCSC, I should say, by not paying the access fee.
Okay, yeah, I think that we need to look into that to make sure that if there's no aged overlay, that maybe we don't get the access fee, we don't get the money, that's fine. But at the same time, we don't have 89 homes in here that could have families in them with small children.
I'd like to just say also that this is just setting the price. We're not obligated to do this. Okay. And if there is any issues, as John brought up, that we can definitely make sure that it doesn't do anything against the overall good of Sun City. My understanding is the same as Kevin's, that when they did that overlay, it was an overlay for age-restricted community, but I will take John's word and will investigate it further.
All right, so is there, it sounds like there's no reason you couldn't go forward with this motion because it has no teeth unless it meets all the qualifications that you determine at a later date.
Yeah. It just sets the price.
It just sets the price. Yes.
Matthew, it sets the price if that developer wants those residents to use our facilities. Can that developer build on that site without asking for facilities? So it can be built on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Collins?
Yes, I really have an issue with this. I have an issue with giving the general manager discretion. I think that the board should always be a part of something like this. Because right now, we should be walking into this, and this thing seems to have come to light within a week. And I think all the questions should have been answered and had everything in writing before we even brought this forward.
Well, I would say, Director Collins, that we did do some research on that, and we were relying on what we heard from Maricopa County in order to put this on the agenda. Was the builder General Manager D. Lizansky, I just promoted you. Was there any time constraint or pressure that this be addressed in yet this month or this week, or in order to let them negotiate with the other owners at this time?
This particular parcel's been in discussion for several years with the prior general manager, and I think there were some emails back and forth that maybe he wasn't aware of the requirement for the board to set the price. So just in preparation, should this deal continue, of course it may not continue, I brought this to your attention and to the board's attention so that we could set the price, so that if and when they do decide to go forward with this, we will be in a position to tell them what the price is. And so with that understanding, this is not a done deal. It'll come back to the board for consideration before we ever sign anything.
Okay.
This is just setting the price, moving it from the price that was set previously in 2006, and as Vice President McAdams said, just adjusting it for the time value of money, essentially, up to the $12,000.
Right.
Mr. President?
Yes, Director Collins.
I want to move that we postpone this until January's meeting. Then we will have all the answers to all these questions before we take this step.
Is there a second to that? Hearing none, your motion fails, Director Collins.
Jim, wait, Tom?
Yes?
I agree with going forward with it. We're not saying we're going to do anything with anybody by doing this. We're just setting the price. If you come in here and develop something, this is what you have to pay. I don't see any problem with doing that now. That doesn't mean that they can come in and not meet our requirements and get in. They'll have to meet our requirements or they don't get in.
Correct.
Director Heiss?
Mr. President, I thought this portion of it was for the members to have their comments and their thoughts, and then our turn would come later. So if we could hold off our comments until they're done with it.
Thank you. I was about to go there.
Next.
Barbara, go ahead.
The motion
Barbara Kirksey?
failed, but the motion is still on the table.
Which they can still,
She said ditto, okay.
That's right.
yes, so they can still.
Ruth McKay? She's coming up.
Hi, Ruth Mackay, 159538. I've been coming to the board meetings for 3 years, and I've attended the Budget and Finance Committee, most of the ones for about approximately 2 years. And this is the first time I've heard of this, and I was totally confused when I read it when I first came in, and I thought I better talk about it because I need more information. And I've never seen a line item on the financials to address this particular amount of money. And I'd be interested to know what it was set at originally in 2006. And I didn't think that there was any property left in Sun City. That was the impression I got when we were talking about building rec centers and changing things around and places for the PAC. So I just have no knowledge of what's going on here. So I just kind of came in blindsided, and I just need a lot more information. Also, I think this would be a good time for me to bring up the fact that I'm very interested in seeing a map of what exactly is Sun City, because it's confusing to me. I would just like to see what property do the rec centers own, or the RCSC? And I like maps, so it would be helpful for me to find things and figure out stuff. So I'd really appreciate that type of knowledge being put out to the public. Thank you.
You want to address any of that?
Linda McIntyre?
I would say just come to the corporate offices and you can get a map of Sun City, and we'll show you exactly where this particular piece of property is. Yes, we do. I guess if you feel like you don't have enough information, I think as General Manager Lazansky was saying, and Director Ruff, this doesn't bind anything. All it does is set a fee. It doesn't, which needs to be set anyway. At the moment, it was $5,600, and that was 2006, 2000, okay. So considerably long time ago, so some updating certainly would be appropriate. It's not like this is plowing new ground. I mean, we've done these things before, or boards in the past have done these things before. You said you were just involved the last couple of years, so this will be prior to when you were involved. Certainly was prior to when I was involved. But it's not new ground. We've been there before. Go ahead.
Okay. Linda McIntyre, 123216. I definitely agree with Mr. Nowakowski, and just want to add a couple other things. I'm not sure $12,000 is high enough in today's market. I think we're giving it away because of the value of our amenities and what the developer is getting. The other concern I have is there is a big movement around the country for these developers that are putting up homes, especially the homes that would be on a size lot that small, that these could be not owned properties. I think John alluded to that, or somebody has, that these could be leased homes, rentals. And we need to be very careful moving forward, and I hope this is delayed, what kind of properties are going to be built. Because if these are leased and not owned, the corporate ownership is what's caused, I think, if you read what's happening around, has really escalated rental costs. And I think we're seeing that in Sun City by the investors that have purchased homes in the last several years. When COVID hit, we saw a lot of investors buying properties. I think our rental prices have increased substantially. That's contributing to some of the rise in costs. I think we have to be very, very careful about what we're doing with the small amount of property we have left around here to develop. And I just want to urge caution about moving forward with this. I think we have to be very careful about what we wish for if we are going to increase ownership of property in this area. So I just want to caution moving forward. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So Linda, I'd like to address, am I on here?
Yes.
I'd like to address two different pieces here. One is that the fee, whether you think it's not enough. So if you I just Googled quickly, what is $5,600 in 2006 worth in today's dollars, and it comes to under $8,500. So we did go above and beyond actually the time value of money by setting it at $12,000. That is a very legitimate topic for this meeting and for this agenda point. What we are not discussing right now is what the first, I want to correct something that I think Ruth said too. We don't own that property. That property is within the confines of Sun City, but we have no way to stop a developer from developing it, and however they choose to do it. What we can determine is that if $12,000 is worth it to us to have whoever is going to be owning those homes owning them. Right? So I think what we heard was that they were talking about building $350,000 to $400,000 homes there. I'm not sure if that's correct, but what I've heard, and it doesn't actually even really matter, but if they're talking about building higher end homes rather than lower end homes. And if there is no age overlay, we still have our rules about what it takes to become a member of RCSC. You can't become a member of RCSC if you're a family with grandchildren. Your grandchildren can't get access to the facilities as members. We control those things, but we don't have a lot of control over what a developer chooses to do above and beyond saying, if somebody meets the qualifications to be a member of RCSC, then that exchange, the right to do that, is determined to some degree by our access fee. So I would say that is actually a discussion for another time, and come back to saying that all we're really trying to do now is simply set a fee that is obviously out of date. We just want to update that to a dollar amount that would be accurate in today's world.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's why the board also needs to be involved with the whole process. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson? Marcia Johnson? Yes. Tad Daughters?
Also for the PAC.
Oh, did you sign up for the PAC also?
No, I didn't. Would you transfer my?
I will do that, sir. Philip Putman?
My number is 169321. Fairly new to the area. I was just looking for a clarification on the verbiage where the word owner is included. Was that added, or has it always been there? Because we're talking about developers, but if owners are included, was that added at any time?
The word owner is in the board policy, so it's certainly conceivable that someone would have owned the property and then at a later point in time, as an individual, decided to build on it. So that, I think, was trying to address that situation rather than a developer plotting out 50 homes or whatever and trying to develop a whole subdivision.
I see. And my next question is regarding the other proposed development. If they're not part of, if they do become part of the Sun City area, does that make us a school district?
Well, we need to make sure that you cannot, well, if they are permitted to have younger age children there, then they can't really be part of Sun City. I mean, you can't, one of the great things here is there is no property tax that addresses school districts because there are no schools.
Exactly.
And so in order to keep our 55-plus designation, we would not permit somebody to come in there and build if, in fact, it doesn't have the 55-plus overlay. It sounds like it did, but there clearly is some difference of opinion on that needs to be resolved.
Well, given the fact that there is some discrepancy, or we're not sure exactly how things are going to play out in that regard, should we not really just table this until we have definitive answers?
Again, we could, but again, all we're doing is setting a fee. At the moment, we're not going any further than that.
So why not wait? Mr. Collins proposed, nobody seconded. No. But you're making decisions on all of our behalf. I'm sure a lot of people here are concerned and waiting maybe 2 more months until we have information isn't going to change it a great deal.
Go ahead, Mickey.
So if we don't pass the motion, the current fee is $5,600, and a developer that would come in and ask to develop whatever the conditions would be, that would be the fee that management would have to quote to them, because that is what is the current number. All we're doing is trying to say we don't want that to be the current number. This is just the beginning of any negotiation that would take place with a developer. But if we don't pass this motion now and don't pass it until February or March of next year, it means that any developer that's asking what is the current access fee, management will say it's $5,600. All we're doing is just changing the number. We're more than doubling it.
Okay, well, just one last point then.
Yeah.
Isn't this already under negotiation with a developer?
No.
Okay then, thank you.
Rick Gray?
Thank you. Rick Gray, 100547. The year came up 2006. That might have been the year that I've been on the board of Sun City Homeowners Association multiple times. We had that issue that came up for that same area, 99th Avenue and Olive. At that time, the builder then talked with the rec center and with Showa. And I actually just talked with the president of the Homeowners Association this morning because he was a little perplexed because there was no discussion with him whatsoever. And I think that I'll say I have no problem with raising the $12,000 to $12,000. That's not an issue to me. What is the biggest disappointment is that the rec center, full disclosure, I'm running for the board, the rec center did not communicate with our Sun City Homeowners Association. While I was on the board, we've had hundreds of underage every year that we fought. It's the Homeowners Association that maintains the environment, the low taxes that we have because we enforce our CC&Rs. And for the rec center to not bring Showa in and say, if you want to do this, you have to follow the CC&Rs that the rest of our community has. That to me was a big disappointment. And I know Showa is oftentimes overlooked because we're just a voluntary membership. You're not forced to pay or not forced to join. You are forced to follow the CC&Rs. But my biggest disappointment, again, is that the rec center did not communicate. The president of our homeowners association had not heard about this except when the thing came up about raising it for $12,000. And again, this was in discussion years ago. They're working on this. They're still obviously developing this. But I think as a community and as a community organization, the rec center needs to be in cooperation with the Homeowners Association and the other community agencies that we have that support our community, that make our community what it is. And so again, I have no problem with you voting today to raise the fee to $12,000. My only flag of caution and disappointment that I'm waving is that the Homeowners Association was not even apprised of this, and they weren't even brought into the discussion. Thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
Yeah, just to answer, I did contact the president of Showa yesterday and try to get information on this. He didn't know the answers, but I did make the phone call and talk to him.
Mr. President and Director Collins, I appreciate that. But again, just the day before, and that might have been why he came over, because he was running down to Tucson today, so he came over to tell me because I was here. But again, I doubt if you heard about this yesterday.
I heard about it I was out of town, so I didn't hear about it until Saturday, because I was out of town.
Mr. President, again, I'm not sure why we'd be contacting anybody, since all we're trying to do is adjust a rate.
And I think Mr. Gray has acknowledged that. His concern was lack of communication, at least his perception of that, but he's not opposing the change of the fee.
Correct.
I was adamantly against this until, matter of fact, I sent our president a text last night and said I'd be voting no. However, I've changed my mind because now I understand it. All we're doing is creating a fee. When this developer, if this developer shows up and says, I would like to build rentals, I'd like to build homes, I'd like to build something, and we want the people here to have access to the RCSC facilities. At that point, we can say, if you want to do that, it's going to cost you $12,000. You have to meet the age overlay. You have to do this. You have to do that. This just gives us the permission to charge $12,000.
I understand.
It doesn't agree that we're building anything or approving anything. We're just saying, if you're going to do this, this is the first thing you have to think about.
I understand that, Director Borski. Again, my flag that I'm waving is that if we don't follow our CC&Rs, if we don't bring them in under our CC&Rs, there can be unintended consequences.
Right, and that will be part of the conversation when we ever get there.
Director Ruff.
Mr. Delasansky, have we had any discussions with anybody at all about them becoming part of RCSC?
Yes, the discussions have been going on for years. And so lately, they came and asked us, I'd say, what, maybe 3 months ago, something like that. But it's very hit and miss. The developer's not sure what they want to do. They're just trying to get some clarification on what the fee is going to be. They're not even committed to it at this point. They're working on their budgets. So they can't do their budgets without us giving them the fee. The fee that they got last from the previous general manager didn't even meet what's in the current amount. So I'm trying to get that done first, well in advance of anything else happening with them.
Okay.
The fee comes first, getting it set.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Rick, for bringing up your concern there. And I think I can, even though I'm going off the board at the end of this year, I think I can assure you that when that next phase takes place, if it does take place, if there is a future discussion, there will be very close alignment between SHOA and RCSC. I don't think that SHOA has any reason to be involved in our changing a fee, right? And so I'm going to just make that excuse for that's the reason that there hadn't been any that's all we're doing is just setting a fee that matches $2024. Any future discussions, I think you can be quite assured that management and SHOA will be on the same page.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, are there others who wish to speak?
Mr. President, everyone spoke who signed up.
Mr. President, second time?
No, we've got a lot more to go today if we possibly can get there. I'm sorry.
I did not realize there was 2 different issues to sign up. So I would like to speak on this one.
Well, there were 2 motions.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. President, will we be letting other people speak as well, since we're letting this lady speak?
Speaking only to the motions.
If there, we
This will be our last speaker on this particular motion, and then we'll
Thank you.
move to the next phase. Go ahead, please.
My name is Christine Metters, 168-937. I have the experience of serving many years on planning and zoning boards on issues similar to this. First, we in most cities call this an impact fee, and the funds are used for like street lights and repair on sidewalks and stuff that become part of your community. And it's very common to charge a very large fee to developers because the town then has to accept that responsibility for those streets and maintenance. Second issue, when developers are planning projects like this, it is very often they go into escrow on property. They are not actually the owners. They go before a planning and zoning commission to get their plots approved after they go through engineering and stuff. Quite often, planning and zoning can put requirements on developers to include HOAs and certain development fees on top of what the impact fees are. Third of all, if people are concerned about this, what we need to do is go to the county planning and zoning meetings and require that the planning and zoning committee do put the overlays on the property and restrictions and requiring of HOA fees and rulings that would restrict the ages and children in the neighborhood. It would also require, if they are going to determine if it's rentals or if it is a residential owner properties, they can make those requirements on that type of development too in their planning stages of the plot. So that's just information for the jury.
Thank you for the information. All right, any further discussion from the directors? All right, the motion before, I'm sorry.
So I find myself torn, and I really feel that we need to exercise caution. And while this looks like a simple thing, when it comes to the law, to land, and anything with a developer, it's never really simple. So my thoughts are, while we can, this is our first vote, it's not our second, it's our first vote. As we move forward, we can vote this time, get more information, share it with the membership, make sure, because I know many of the members were surprised by this motion. This will allow us to inform the membership more fully, and for the board itself to fully understand what this really means and take on board things like what Mr. Nowakowski said, because I think those are important. Because as Vice President McAdams said, we're only voting on the increase and how the general manager can negotiate the payment for that, should it occur. So my thoughts are we can move forward, but we exercise extreme caution as we move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else on the directors? Okay, so the motion before us is to set the access fee at $12,000 to be paid by the builders or owner developer who wishes to construct a dwelling that might contain individuals who would have access to RCSC property or amenities. Secretary Rickmeyer, will you please take the roll call vote?
Sure. Treasurer Borski.
Yes.
Director Keiss.
Yes.
Director Collins.
No.
Vice President McAdam.
Yes.
Director Ruff.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director Nettesheim.
Reservedly, yes.
President Foster.
Yes.
And I vote yes with 8-1. First reading.
Okay, so passes its first reading. All right. The next item of business is a motion to accept the recommendation for the location of the Performing Arts Center. Before we proceed, as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, in the interest of transparency, I know it's getting late and I know a ton of people want to speak here, but we wanted to take a few minutes here to review that presentation from the architect and perhaps provide some clarity on what I'm perceiving to be some misunderstanding of what's going on. So Director Rickmeyer, if you're ready to proceed, please proceed.
Alan, you ready? Okay. Okay, I have been asked to give a quick overview of Triarch's presentation of the Performing Arts location recommendation from October 31st. The full video of the presentation is available on YouTube. I would like to remind everyone that the decision on whether there should be a performing arts center was already determined through proper processes. Our decision today is the location of the Performing Arts Center, the PAC. Earlier this year, RCSC management tasked Triarch's architects and engineers with reviewing our 8 rec centers and the Sun Bowl Amphitheater property to determine the best location for the PAC. Slide 2, okay. The Triarch agenda for the presentation was as shown. Slide 3. This is the process Triarch used for the recommendation. Slide 4. Their criteria to determine the best location included available space for the PAC, space for parking, close to local amenities, access and visibility, back of house access, views, opportunities for extended uses, ease of construction, and context within the property. Slide 5. Most sites were eliminated due to location, property size, inability to add necessary additional parking, and the lack of visibility for the PAC. Bell was eliminated because the PAC would be an isolated building and would conflict with the extensive recreational use of the property. Slide 6. As a result, RCSC directed Triarch to concentrate their efforts on the Lakeview and Mountain View sites for the future PAC. It is important to remember the sketches shown today are just sketches. The PAC and Mountain View projects are still in preliminary stages and no actual plans have started. Deciding the PAC location will enable Triarch to begin to explore the design possibilities for both locations. That's slide 7, correct? No, don't move yet. Stay there. The Mountain View site potentials included the strong possibility the existing auditorium could not be modified to support the current and future needs of the PAC. Construction phasing and operation costs would extend the development and potentially suspend usage of the existing auditorium for multiple seasons. Removing the performing arts from Mountain View would create greater flexibility in the design of potential amenities for members at Mountain View. And Mountain View is the most southern property limiting universal access. Slide 8. Site potentials for the Lakeview East site include, this is an appropriate area for a PAC. However, this site creates congestion between the rec center, the bowling alley, and the storage receiving area. The mini golf, the boat dock, and the adjacent mature landscaping would be demolished. The site would have increased development costs due to the challenging steeper topography. This site also severely limits flexibility for future site development. Slide 9. Site potentials for the west site at Lakeview include, this is an appropriate site for a PAC. It has strong, clear access points from Del Webb. Construction will have minimal impact on the daily use and the operation of Lakeview Rec Center. Lower construction costs due to the level site. Lakeside views to and from the PAC would be stunning. The model boat yacht club usage should not be permanently impacted but may be affected during construction. The negatives for the Lakeview West site are, it requires the removal of shuffleboard, both of the lawn bowling greens, and the west side golf cart parking. And location is adjacent to residents, which could be problematic during construction. Slide 10. This slide shows the potential lake views looking east from a PAC on the west side of the Lakeview property and looking north from the east side. Slide 11. This side gives us another view of a PAC on the west side. The location is shown in teal. Slide 12. Triarch believes the west site at Lakeview meets many of their high-level decision-making criteria. The central location is better for all Sun City residents compared to the extreme south location of Mountain View. There is available space for the building and parking. Cost impacts for construction will be lower. Access to local amenities and dining are much better than at Mountain View. The approach to the PAC, visibility, and back-of-house access are all better than Mountain View. The views from the front of the PAC, which will face Viewpoint Lake, are stunning. The centralized location provides more opportunities for extended uses for meetings, clubs, and events. The west location fits well on the property and provides greater flexibility for Lakeview renovation, which may start a few years after the Mountain View project is complete. Additionally, the Mountain View Auditorium can be used during part of the center's renovation. Not building the PAC at Mountain View provides new opportunities at Mountain View that may include upgrading lawn bowling with an addition of a second green. Slide 13. Okay. As a result, Triarch is recommending the Lakeview West site. The central location provides a unique first-rate patron experience with great lake views and will be a destination point for current and future residents. It has strong front and back of house access points. There is no premium site development costs. It doesn't limit future development of the property. It gives us more flexibility on what we can do at Mountain View. The site is appropriate for commercial and public use for many different ways. While this concludes the recap of Triarch's presentation, I want to reiterate my comments at the October 31st board meeting. I stated, without the ums, okay? As chair of lawn bowling, and given that this site will negatively impact amenities, not just lawn bowling, but shuffleboard, and we also have a miniature Sun City model yacht club that deals with motorized little boats, we want to make sure that Triarch is prepared and aware and is planning to accommodate those. Thank you for including those in the last few slides. We appreciate that. I guess I would say that the board insists that double lawn bowling greens be accommodated. We have had great discussions with our lawn bowling community with regards to how they interact single greens versus double greens, and it is imperative that if those greens disappear, there be an opportunity for another pair of double greens, or else lawn bowling as we know it in Sun City will not exist. So I just wanted to make sure that this is addressed. Thank you for including that information. That was what I said to the architects on the 31st. In closing, I would like to remind our members that our excellent grounds superintendent, Scott Jones, and his dedicated staff will continue to pamper and maintain the lawn bowling greens regardless of which facility they're located at. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Director Collins, would you like to make your motion?
I move that the recommendation by Triarch, the architectural engineering firm designating the Mountain View project regarding the location of the proposed Performing Arts Center, PAC, be accepted.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Thank you. Director Collins, as the maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first for its adoption?
Yes, thank you. You know, I've been sitting here for 4 years, and for 4 years we have not got past right here this point. For 4 years. You know, and everybody says to me, you know, let's make up our mind, let's get going. We don't have that many years left on the planet. By the time this is built, none of us will get to enjoy it. And in January, we decided that since there was no decision at that point, that whatever the architect said was the best for Sun City, we as board members would go with the recommendation of the architect, whichever one got to pick. And we picked an architect, they picked a location, and therefore I'm going to stick by what we told you in January and go forward with the recommendation of Triarch. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the members who have signed up. And again, let me reiterate that if you hear the person in front of you say something that pretty much what you were going to say, if you would pass. I understand we have dozens and dozens who wish to speak, so we're going to be here a while. So please be considerate of everyone's time. I know you want to, you're passionate about your opinion here, and we want to hear that. But by the same token, we need to get through this day if we can. All right, Ms. Johnson.
Harold Berkey.
If there's any way you can get this up on the screen, I would really appreciate it.
We don't have a projector.
Without this, it won't make much sense. Okay. Harold Berkey, 120038. The world-class lawn bowling courts area stays as is. The very limited current parking is significantly increased. Emergency vehicle access is opened up. The new parking area opens up directly to 105th Avenue, which gives access to Thunderbird Avenue with a stoplight for safely handling access for a large number of cars entering or leaving at one time. The new parking area would be one of the first steps.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Are you, so everybody has context on this, you're putting these comments because your desire is to have the pack at a different location. Could you kind of give us a brief idea of where you think that location should be?
I have given you all a copy of it.
I understand that, sir.
They don't have a way, and I didn't print 200 copies.
I was just hoping you could describe to them where you were talking about, sir. That's all. So everybody understands
I
what
have
you're
3
talking.
minutes. I've got 2 minutes left. I at least trying to get through this, but somehow you should let them know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The new parking area would be one of the first steps providing space for equipment and supplies without affecting normal Lakeview activities. The new mini golf area in the southwest corner of Lakeview Rec Center can be built before shutting down the existing area, which becomes part of the new parking area. This new mini golf area allows more room and has beautiful existing trees. The wonderful 10 tennis courts at Bell Rec Center can easily handle the very minor current activity at the 4 Lakeview courts, which will become part of the new parking area. The new theater location is on a slope perfect for seating with possibly no trees needing to be cut down. It could be mounted on short support columns, which would eliminate nearly any slope grading, or the slope could be graded a bit to allow direct construction. Wheelchair and electric scooter access could be connected to the existing shoreline walkway, which stays in place. A space in front of the theater first row could be allowed for them. Theater height over the stage allows for set backdrops going up and down. It also could be part of a flat roof, maybe about even with the top of the hill. Effort should be made to make the theater building a beautiful addition to the park hillside. The Opera House design on the Sydney, Australia Harbor Show is an amazing example of how to do that.
Director Borski.
I'm going to try to describe your drawing, so help me if I mess this up. The area where lawn bowling is now, that will not be touched.
Not be touched at all.
The area where the mini golf, the tennis, the warehouse, that will all become parking.
The tennis courts aren't being used, and the warehouse used to be the auto club, and it's miscellaneous little buildings and receiving area that should be easily moved at low cost.
Right, and that's the area you're talking about making parking.
Yes, all the way to 105th Avenue, which allows you direct access with a stoplight.
Correct. And now, I want to make sure I get this right. The area that you're speaking of putting the pack is on the hill.
Yes, it's within about 250 feet of this new parking area.
Right, and the front of the theater would face the water.
Yes.
I should say the entrance of the theater would face the water.
Well, there can be a lower entrance, or if you wanted to enter from up on top of the hill, probably you could work that out too. You could even use an outdoor escalator. They've got one in North Dakota that's working in the winter. And I don't know if it works in the winter, but they have it.
So a large portion of this hill I don't know is it Meeker Mountain? I don't even know the name of it, would have to be excavated?
No, very little. I've based the space, I don't know what you know about the existing playhouse. I've based it on what fits on a cruise ship. They're all limited to about 100 feet wide by the old Panama Canal, which allowed a 105-foot hull. They are all 100 feet wide. I scaled off the deck plans on boats, and they're about 140 feet top to bottom. You've got a natural slope. You don't have to dig or pile up anything, and it's perfect for what I'm talking about.
So you're proposing to put the entrance, you're proposing to build the building level.
Could be.
With
It's up to you.
pylons here, but into the hill here.
You don't have any pylons there. You're on the slope that's already there to the top of the hill.
I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you now. I get it. Thank you.
And you can come in with a wheelchair or anything right off the existing path that wouldn't be broken in.
I'm with you now. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
L. Yost? No?
One more time, it was still applauding.
What?
One more time, they were still.
L. Yost? Okay.
My number is 122743. I spoke earlier about the impact on the property around the rec centers. I was going to speak about the lawn bowling and what a great thing it is, and Del Webb had a great idea, and don't take our lawn bowling away. But if I'm a bit confused on what you're voting on here, is this, you're voting that the company has recommended that they build the theater at Lakeview and tear out the lawn bowling things? If you build it at Lakeview, then what happens at Mountain View? Are you going to leave us alone? Are you going to build a new building? It's all been in the process for 10 years of doing something. My husband and I are too old. We will not profit from anything that you do. We'll be unable to use it. But a lot of people that now lawn bowl should continue to lawn bowl, and if you're going to take two of our greens away at Lakeview, you plan on putting one back at Mountain View. I don't know if that would work, or if it does, I guess that would be great. But lawn bowling is something that you can do when you're not physically able to do other sports, and if you haven't ever tried it, come to our clubs. We have balls that you can use and learn the sport, and once you're not able to do something else like pickleball, then lawn bowling is available for us. So please, if you're going to take one of the lawn bowling greens away or two of them, please add us another one somewhere else. Thank you.
Jordy Craig?
No, hang on.
Here, 1 second.
I'm sorry. Okay, I am the chair of the lawn bowling committee, and we did meet with some lawn bowlers 2 weeks ago now, and sat down and really understood the necessity for the 2 green setup versus a single green setup. At this point in the process, what we're doing today is deciding the location of the pack. That's like the first baby step. That will free up the architects to figure out what's going at Mountain View. We understand that having another set of double greens is extremely important to our lawn bowling community, and that Bell could not handle just all the tournaments and everything. It's just not doable. It would destroy the Bell lanes. So we will be, as a board, encouraging the architectural team to find a way to create a second lane, a second green at Mountain View, stagger it, whatever. As far, not just hang on. I mean, the nice thing is about this, by moving the Performing Arts Center here, it frees up a lot of what can happen at Mountain View. This, again, is just the baby step. This is just the point where we're throwing out ideas and going to be sitting down with the end users and the people, that type of thing. So I just want to encourage you that there's still a long ways to go. Okay? And we will keep the folks informed as we get to those steps. Okay, I'm done.
Ms. Johnson?
Okay. Jordy Craig?
Ditto to what Ms. Yost said. I've lost my voice, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Claudia Wilson?
Claudia Wilson, 145604. I want to get this done as soon as everybody else does. We've been waiting too long. But I think the selection of this site is a vital first step, and if we screw this up, it's going to have long-term effects. There's one pertinent issue that I haven't heard anyone mention, and the architect representatives who came out here to survey every site may not have been aware of if they just happened to come when the train didn't come by. The train tracks are a quarter mile from Lakeview, and they run 24/7. The frequency is unpredictable. I know because I live a half a mile from Lakeview Center. And when the train comes by, there are 4 traffic crossings, and they sound their whistles. And if you're at Lakeview, it's very loud. So if we build this beautiful new building with the stunning lake views, and we have a theater production going on, and here comes the train, and the actors are delivering their lines, and they have to freeze for 5 to 7 minutes, whatever time it takes for the train to clear those 4 crossings. If we want to attract high-end theater groups to that pack, and we want to attract surrounding audience members from Peoria and Glendale and Phoenix and everywhere, and they pay to get in, which would be a nice revenue for us, we're going to look really, really amateurish when that train comes by.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say my background is in HVAC and building. Okay, so HVAC design. There's such a thing called sound attenuation. You won't be able to hear the trains go by in that building.
So that would be an added cost from situating the pack at a different location, which didn't have that issue.
Correct? You still need sound attenuation because of the sensitivity of a theater. Beg pardon? The planes, yeah. There would still be sound attenuation because of the jets that we have go by, that because we live in a flight path. So sound attenuation is part of that. So the architectural team has experts in theater. It'll be addressed. You won't hear
At
them.
an added cost.
I don't believe so, because how is a plane different from a train?
It's louder. You said in the beginning that the 2 centers from Bell were disregarded and essentially trashed at the beginning. But if you compare either of those 2 centers to the Lakeview location, Bell offers better parking, no displacement of existing amenities, no train noise, proximity to more heavily traveled streets, and potential lower costs. Lakeview, on the other hand, offers a view of the lake after dark.
I wasn't, remember, I had to give a brief taking a 45-minute, reducing it to about 7 minutes. The Bell location would have to sit 450 feet off of 99th. There is no view there. There is no reason for... Okay, come on. Give me a...
Please behave, folks, professional, please.
Okay, there's no stunning view like it would be for putting it out here. There is not the opportunity to make it a place to come to. It would be an afterthought being there. They reviewed 4 different locations at Bell and shot them down because of so many factors that we just can't get into today. But if you pull the slides up, it lists a number of why things were
I looked at the slides. I wasn't able to attend the meeting because I was out of town, but I did look at the slides. It was a little hard to tell because as the video went along, it kind of jumped at that point. And I looked at it several times and tried to slow it down, but I couldn't really see those locations very clearly.
Okay.
But again, are you valuing stunning views over functionality and impact on the community?
The functionality and the visibility that this site potentially has, it's the access, the back of house access, we could go on and on.
Which would all be available at Bell.
Claudia, I respectfully disagree with your opinion.
Fine. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
But again, I think
Folks,
all of those
let's not
factors...
argue. Let's just have your presentation. Thank you very much. So you made your points very, very eloquently, and you made yours, so let's move on.
Okay, don't forget the train.
Woo-woo.
Greg Brown.
Greg Brown, 118161, I think. I'm a little bit late to the party. I'm a bowler, married to a bowler, and what we have here, of course, is world class. We all know that in lawn bowling. In fact, in the room, we probably have more than one world champion. However, since I'm late to the party, I'll just go to the business part of this equation. I'm also a liberal arts graduate and a huge promoter of the performing arts. And one of my close golfing buddies was Canada's biggest impresario. And I said to him, Donald, why don't you build yourself a theater rather than renting all the ones around Montreal and Toronto? He said, Greg, you're stupid. I make more money in one day renting the Montreal Forum than the owner of the Forum makes in an entire year. I'm wondering if indeed the business equation to build this thing has been reviewed properly. And since the decision was made apparently years ago, I missed that one, I'm sorry, any decision can be changed.
Thank you, sir.
Linda Thompson. Linda Thompson.
You know my name. My number's 11537. I'm very interested in the impact study that you folks must have done in making your decision. Was that done? Was an impact study done? Most decisions in the business world that are made like this involve an impact study. And an impact study includes the people that the building or facility will impact. And one of those groups of people are the residents near the facility. I'm one of those people. I live on the lake. And I have to tell you that I don't see any proof that any of the people on the lake or near the lake were involved in this decision and what impact it might have on us. For example, you probably don't know that the sound of every voice on that lake carries across the lake. When the people are in the paddle boats, we can hear every word in their conversation. So we are concerned about, the noise from this facility coming across the lake. I'm not impressed that the architect made this recommendation. The architect does not live in Sun City. He does not live on the lake. He hasn't probably had any consideration for the people and the homes that it's going to impact. I'd also like to know from the general manager, how many seats will be in this facility? My time's going. I need your answer.
That's still up for, that amount.
And how many parking spots have you allocated?
It's in the presentation. It's online.
Well, I didn't look online. I need that
remember exactly.
information from you. You can't provide that?
The entire presentation from the architect, including all the backup slides, was put online.
Well, the concern that many of
information
us
is there.
have is the parking. Are they going to be parking on Buccaneer? Are they going to be parking in front of people's homes?
No, we have to have enough parking in the facility itself to be able to accommodate the people. That's part of Maricopa County's code.
Okay. And the stunning view is of my home, which I don't appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call two names, so the second name can come up and sit and be prepared to get up and speak after the first one's done. The next name would be Michael Sandiford, and the one after that is Dennis McMillan.
Hi, Michael Sandiford, 159-885. Over the last couple of years, our lawn bowling greens have been at risk for removal for a pickleball expansion and recently for a building at Lakeview. Lawn bowls has been an important part of Sun City for 65 years. In many ways, it helps define Sun City as the premier lawn bowling destination in North America. Lawn Bowls, with a membership of over 500 members, is one of the largest clubs in Sun City and continues to grow. With the loss of these greens, all of the work and history of lawn bowls in Sun City will decline, and without the ability to hold RCSC tournaments, will probably fade away. I ask you to change course and preserve one of Sun City's treasures. Surely you can improve and add to Sun City without taking away from our existing clubs. There must be other ways to build a PAC building without destroying our thriving club. Your decisions shouldn't be based on faulty data and numbers. It's more than numbers, it's about people. Thank you.
Dennis McMillan, 158490. Not a member of the lawn bowling clubs. I'm a resident of Sun City. I'm a certified general real estate appraiser. 40 years in the business. I've done highest and best use studies. I've testified in courts, including federal courts. I look at the east, the west location, and I see functional and bad highest and best use decisions. Number one, it backs to residential. Never put commercial uses against homeowners. Number two, it has severe access problems. There are no traffic light controlled intersections. You're doing a crossover from a narrow way southbound Del Webb to swing in, to go out on Del Webb to go southbound. You're going to have all that traffic coming off the Thunderbird exit trying to get north on Del Webb. Traffic problems. Parking. There is limited parking now on the west side of the Lakeview Rec Center. You're going to expect people to walk all the way over to the tennis courts to park. Yes, they're going to go up to Buccaneer. People are lazy. So the site is probably the worst site of all that you recommended. The only benefit to this location is the architect gets to see the nice artsy picture of his building on the lake. I urge the board to actually do an actual real estate analysis. I will offer my time to help the committees in selecting a site. I am a professional in this industry, and that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Keith Tilton, and then the next one would be Norm Dixon.
Keith has gone to the doctor.
Okay, so Norm Dixon and then Charles Timmerman.
(2429). Unfortunately, I have not lost my voice. 50 years ago, Del Webb made a terrible decision to put a round building on a lakefront and put half of that building underground, which means that approximately 90-some% of that building cannot see the lake. And the developer just in front of me would agree, you don't put property on a lake if you can't see the lake. So now the second idea that has come up, let's put a theater on the lakefront property. Again, less than 7% of that building is going to have windows that see the lake. I think you're compounding a bad decision that was made 50 years ago. I would hope it would be reconsidered. There are a lot of other spots that can be handled on that. We have lakefront property in the middle of a desert. That's worth more than gold and cryptocurrency. We have green grass, trees, and water in the middle of the desert. It doesn't matter to me where you put the theater, but if you move it from Mountain View, you're creating problems someplace else. That's your decision. But what we need to do is to have a master plan for Lakeview before we put anything there. I don't care what it is. Because you put things in there and then you decide, oh, the new center, which will not be in a circle, which will have over 90% of the rooms facing the lake, so that our members who are going to their club meetings or exercise rooms or pool are going to be able to see and enjoy the lake. It's also going to be a show place for new people coming. The visitor center will be there. And they're going to see all of us old folks out there doing funny things like pickleball and lawn bowling and tennis and shuffleboard. If you don't do this right, you will never, ever get a second chance. And I think you're hearing from the members today that there has not been enough work done to get it right. I've always pushed. I'm sick and tired of this going on since before COVID. But rushing into a bad decision is not good. Ask General Custer.
Okay, the next person is Charles Timmerman, and after that is Christine Meadors. Charles? Okay. Christine Meadors? And then Lynn Tortelli.
Christine Meadors, 168.
Ma'am, did you not already speak to this?
That was on the impact fee. 168,937. I do not understand why this cannot go on Sun Bowl property, which is just a big open field that they can build on. And again, with developers wanting to build by the lake for the view for the general public to see, that's not members. They're coming to see a performance inside a theater. They're not coming to see the outside of the building.
Lynn's next, and then Miguel Rawling.
Lynn Tortorelli, 135521. My concern is that the professional study by the architects, what do they really know about lawn bowling? Do they have an understanding that we need double greens in order to host our national and international tournaments? I don't believe they probably do. Let me tell you, I've lived in Sun City for 10 years. I worked for RCSC, excuse me, for 5 years in cardholder services there in the basement that Norm just mentioned. I never got to see the lake. So, but what I did was I walked every day on my breaks. I walked and walked and walked. And I always wondered what those people were doing over there at the lawn bowling greens. It looked like they were having so much fun. I knew once I retired, that was where I was going to go and what I was going to do for my fun and pleasure. I'm still learning about lawn bowling and the other clubs, for that matter. I just don't see how that architectural committee could have come in and gotten a good education in a short period of time. I guess that's it. I yield my time. Thank you.
Okay, so Miguel Rawling was next, and then John Fast. Is Miguel here? All right, John, you're up.
Get the next person.
The person after John will be, I can't read the first name, but the last name is Wagner.
I spoke already.
Okay.
Okay, several people have left and asked me to speak for them, and I'm going to summarize what they might say. The first person, Dave Clausen, I think his...
John, your number, please.
Oh, my number is 153253. They make it easy so I can remember it. The first person is Dave Clausen, and his concern was that the Mountain View renovation process that was published was not followed. And that didn't instill confidence in him that the decision was made with appropriate input. That's my summary. The second person is Lori Ellingson, and I think she's given you written comments, so you can read those at your leisure. Look, I think you've heard the members' reaction. I know you want to make a decision. We all want to make a decision. We want to make the right decision. But when the members, this many members, stand up and not one, not a single one, has supported this recommendation, I hope the board listens. Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Jay Kirksey, and then Ron Rollick.
Ron Rollick already had his comment.
Okay. So Jay Kirksey, is that you? Okay. The person after you then would be Bill Waddell.
That's that Arkansas draw coming out. Jay Kirksey, 1678893, and I'll be brief. Listening is important, and y'all have done great. Hearing is important, and I don't know. but I have a feeling you've heard. The next part is the application. Listen, hear, and then apply. And Ms. Rickmeyer, and did I say your name correctly, ma'am? No one can say Kursky or Kirky or in between anyway. But I think, and thank you for meeting with people just like y'all have, for listening and hearing and applying, because if I listen correctly, and if I'm inaccurate, I apologize. But if I heard correctly, after listening, you understood the importance of dual rinks, and I think you used the word extinct, that if lawn bowling did not have dual links, it would be extinct. Exist. I apologize. Thank you for the correction. I hope the rest of the board understands that, and that's something that you've heard in different ways. And then I also respect that you have a very hard decision related to a pack, because you've listened, heard, and applied as to one. And, you know, we're back to the lifestyle. So whether we were talking about golf or tennis or one of those pillars of why Sun City is so fantastic, you'd be having the same rough decisions and considerations. So I just have a few more things. Number one, the architect's decision, it would be easy to kind of pass the buck and say, hey, we followed their criteria. But their decision is only as good as the criteria upon which it's based. And there were a number of factors upon which have been voiced today that were not part of that criteria, respectfully, okay? Secondly, just a pure query, I don't know what the cost was of putting it on East Lakeview that the architects told you the cost difference was, but I'm curious whether that balance is related to everything you've heard today. And I understand, cost is no fun. And lastly, I told you I'd be brief. Heck, I have 50-some-odd seconds. My wife and I built a home last year, and it was supposed to be the dream home. Instead, we moved to Sun City because of our dream. And we had a flat spot we could have built it on. And it was nice and had a nice view, and it would have saved us probably $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to have built in this one specific location. And instead, we spent the money and, you imagine, built this other location. So the last thing I would ask you to consider is the cost-benefit analysis. That if the East Lakeview analysis costs a little more, then respectfully that analysis. Because what I've heard is 2 rinks, it would not exist, and that's accurate, Mrs. Richtmeyer. And I hope you recognize that and the effect it has on Sun City as a whole, now and in the future. But weigh that, please. And it's now 0. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I called Bill Waddell, but that's a privilege card holder, and so I don't know if he's still here, but, okay, all right. So the next 2 people would be Catherine Seltzer and Michael Modell.
Hello, my privilege number is 149936. A lot of what I had intended to say has been said, but I just want to give a little brief background about myself. In 2019, my husband and I purchased a home in Sun City. We're mere minutes from Lakeview. We already owned a home in Scottsdale and would have been quite content being snowbirds there, but we attended the 2018 U.S. Open Lawn Bowling Tournament in Sun City and realized that this is where we belonged, the lawn bowling mecca of North America. We could have purchased in Grand or in Sun City West, but we really wanted to live where the bowling was best. And we purchased in Sun City based on the facilities and amenities that existed. And it seems to me that rather than adding and improving, you plan to take some of them away. And we kind of feel like we're a victim of a bait and switch. It boggles my mind that the bell was not even considered when, you know, essentially it would be a parking lot. And as someone who has been a member of another club in our other home that has relocated, first of all, we don't have any assurances that the 2 Green facility would be built in Mountain View. That's a promise, but promises are only as are actually not worth the paper that they're written on unless you have the paper that they're written on. What is the timeline to build a new two-green facility? If you bulldoze ahead with this whole plan and get rid of the Lakeview greens, would we have to wait infinitely until these new greens are built? Because that lag time could kill our sport. And also, as someone who has experienced a brand new facility being built, greens aren't built in a day. You know, it's not simply that you can just throw some sod down, mow it, and call it a day. They need to be cultivated and groomed. And the greens that we have now are legacy greens. They have been, you know, Scott and crew have been babying them for a very long time to get them to world class. You might not understand what a seconds mean in terms of lawn bowling, but trust me, when we say we have 16 and 17 second greens, that's like unicorn level greens, okay? You don't get those everywhere. And it would take an infinite amount of time to get those again. And as someone who lives very, very close to Lakeview, I love driving down Del Webb and seeing the green expanse and the view of the lake. And a large box that fills the space will not only be a blight on everyone's enjoyment of the lake who doesn't necessarily live on the lake, but will undoubtedly reduce the value of our homes. And call me obtuse, but what do people sitting in a theater need a view for? Thank you.
Okay, Michael Modell is next, and after that is John Duval.
Hi, Mike Modell, 145164. I was going to start this talk by emphasizing the value of lawn bowling and the greens to our community, but it's been said by many people. Again, my concern is that these are not being promoted by the RCSC out to the general public, relying solely on the club to provide that. And that if we want to reach new bowlers and turn them, you know, from being outsiders to insiders to get them to buy here, we've got to go outside the realm that the club can access in terms of communication. But what I'm really concerned about in this decision from the architect is the architectural firm themselves and what their credibility was in terms of making this recommendation. As you've already heard, no site analysis, no talk about what's going to have to happen on Del Webb or Thunderbird to be able to handle the traffic, especially the surge traffic when one of these performances ends. Also, many of these companies that might come in will be bringing in 18-wheelers to bring their sets, their wardrobe, et cetera. And where are those guys going to park and unload during this process? It just seems that shoehorning this pack into a corner of the Lakeview property is going to lead to plenty of problems with respect to traffic and congestion. And finally, we've talked about Bell. We've heard Bell is unacceptable, but there has been nothing presented to us about the issues with Bell. Zoning requirements, setback requirements, drainage requirements, whatever, you know, has been touted as reasons why locating a pack at the Bell corner of, at the corner of Hutton and 99th is not possible, other than that it doesn't have the view, of which, of course, a pack is not intended to have a view. It's intended to provide views of performances to audiences. And it is not intended to be a showplace for a restaurant or a community center or anything like that, unless that's what the board's intent is in establishing this building on the lake. Thank you.
Okay, John Duval's next, and then Ruth McKay.
I was going to say good morning, but I see now it's good afternoon. RCS board members and attendees, my name is John Duval, 125314. I'm also a bowler and webmaster of bowlsaz.com. From the very beginning, lawn bowling has been a part of the fabric of Sun City. Walt Disney, an avid bowler, convinced Del Webb to offer lawn bowling as one of the original activities for Sun City. The sport became instantly popular among retirees because of its relatively low physical requirements and non-existent injuries. Above all, it could be enjoyed outdoors on a lovely grass venue. The popularity continued, and greens were installed at Mountain View, Fairway, Lakeview, and Bell. Lawn bowling has been a staple since that time until today, when we are suddenly faced with near extinction. It appears that we are going to lose Mountain View Club to pickleball and our beloved Lakeview Bowling Club to a new view-obstructing pack building. About 5 years ago, our members began a concerted effort to increase our visibility to Sun City residents. As a result, the Lakeview Club has had over 100% increase in membership during the past 3 years. We also hosted the 2018, 2019, and 2024 United States Open Championships, where hundreds of participants from around the world came to bowl at the finest greens in all of North America. We are the only clubs in Sun City that are world famous and attract hundreds of visitors each year to spend their money in their local communities. Lawn bowling is one of the few outdoor activities where residents can participate in their 90s without the worry of debilitating injuries. Many Bowls USA sanctioned events are held here each year. Bowlers from across the United States and Canada come to bowl, and some have eventually purchased property. Today, our wish is to keep Lakeside as is, with its 2 beautiful natural greens and unobstructed scenic view of our lake, where residents can fish, sail their tiny boats, play shuffleboard, and lawn bowl. We have asked you to reevaluate your proposal not to demolish our greens in favor of a building that will not enhance the beauty of Lakeview, but instead block the beautiful views. I believe there is another viable building site and can accommodate the pack building without having to destroy Lakeview Scenic Bowling Greens that has been here for half a century. Replacing Mountain View with pickleball courts and Lakeview with the pack building will only decimate lawn bowling, but will pit clubs against clubs. This is something Dale Webb never envisioned when he developed our beloved Sun City. Thank you.
Okay, Ruth McKay is next, and then Susan Bjork.
Hello, Ruth McKay, 159538. So I attended all of the meetings, or most of the meetings, that they had at Mountain View about when we had a different architect or person that we contacted to give us information about building Mountain View and redoing it. And I learned at that time that this discussion has been going on for years and years and years and years, and it sounds like it's going to be going on for a lot longer and more years and years and years, which is disappointing. And I would recommend that there be an update every meeting that we have, board meeting and member exchange meeting, on the progress or non-progress of Mountain View, the PAC, and it would avoid having people having to come just to one meeting. I've been waiting all year to come up and ask, what is the progress of Mountain View? And there still is no progress. So if you addressed this at every single meeting without just a few lines that the manager reads that doesn't really tell you any information, then you could avoid having everybody come all at once and complain about this subject, because the next time we do this, the people will come and complain about a different subject. And then the next time we do it, they'll come and complain about another subject. So you're never going to please everybody. It's impossible. So that's my suggestion, and I would look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, after Susan Bjork, it's Linda McIntyre.
112650. I just am going to say ditto, ditto to everything. And my multiple emails to you was not for naught. This is what I've been hearing, and this is what I've been telling you, is that there's more than just the Players Club, and making sure that we do the right decision. And again, had we moved forward with Plan M, we'd be in renovation stage by now. We could have dealt with the overcost, because we can't spend any more money than $14 million on this facility. We already know that. So thank you for listening to these members that showed up to express their concern, and I hope you do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, after Linda McIntyre is Jean English.
Linda McIntyre, 123216. The passion is evident. That's an understatement. I am for the PAC at Lakeview. However, it's painfully obvious that we are long overdue for a master plan. And that was discussed at the in-depth, I think. We gave it a lot of discussion at the 5-year planning team meetings. When we worked on the budget, we talked about all of our facilities, and Lakeview was a topic. I firmly believe that we could incorporate the PAC, but it needs to be incorporated within the renovation and the rebuild at Lakeview. That whole facility is on the plan, on the PIF plan. I'm concerned that we're going to do a standalone. It doesn't matter if it's east or west. The best thing would be that it's incorporated in the whole new building. And without that master plan, I agree with Norm Dixon that we could be making a mistake, as much as I want this to happen, and as much as I want it to move forward. And yes, I do think a PAC needs a view. If you've been to a theater, many theaters, just a minute, we need to have a vision about using that entire property to take advantage when new people come to Sun City. When they come, and we've been longing for a community center that has the ability to have a coffee shop, or, work with me, a wine bar, or the place to have, when we had our appreciation luncheon for the volunteers, and we had entertainment. We had lunch at Sundial, and then sat through an hour extended performance on these chairs that are not comfortable, and we all know that. How nice would it have been that we had our luncheon and then could sit on comfortable theater-like chairs and enjoy that performance, all in one facility. If we walked from a PAC through a pathway, or a nice pathway, or an atrium, all connected. We need to have some vision in this. We can do this, but without a master plan. And I would like to see that either long-range planning or somebody, or we get together, and I'll wrap up, that in the next year, we get this together and do a whole plan for Lakeview. We can do this. We have the ability to look at that whole property. It is a pristine, beautiful piece of land. It is our best property. And let's do this right. Thank you.
Okay, Jean English is next. Okay, then Kenneth Grease, and after that is Peter Paquette.
Ms. Johnson, how many are still remaining?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Hi,
16.
Ken Greasy, 159245.
I'm just a little confused. First, you said that you wanted to move it to Lakeview to be more centralized, but now you want to take the lawn greens and maybe add a second one over at Mountain View, so that wouldn't be centralized, so we're pitting one club against another? It just doesn't seem fair. The cost to put in those lawn greens is expensive. And so you're going to tear something out that's very expensive to put in, to replace it, and then rebuild it again? We already have fund issues as it is. This would just make the matters worse. So I stand against it.
Okay, Peter Paquette, if that's how you say it, is next, and then Richard, I can't read your last name, I can't read it. Burgoy? Burgay, okay.
You got my name right, Peter Paquette, 114402. I came here 13 years ago, basically for lawn bowling from Montreal, Quebec. And I'm not going to waste your time here. I agree with the fact that you need a master plan for that beautiful area of Lakeview, and not put a building in and then limit the planning of the whole facility afterwards. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Richard's next, and then Cynthia Rogers.
Richard Burgoyne, 118779. I'd just like to make some general comments. One, first of all, thank you very much. You guys are doing a hard job. You're volunteers. I don't think there's a harder job than running volunteers, and you got a doubling of that. We're all seniors, and we all like to complain. So thank you. Thank you very much for your service. Having said that, one earlier person kind of alluded to it. And it came up again with augmentation about central planning. I used to run multidiscipline industrial projects like refineries and that sort of thing. And one of the things I come away from that experience with is that the best projects had the best, what I call, basic data. We've alluded to it. It's sitting down and before anything is approved, budgets, concepts, whatever, you write down a list of very hard and well thought through objectives, goals. And those goals become basically the standard under which you operate the balance of the project. All the nitty-gritty and all the things you do have to fit the basic data. Now, you can call it a number of things, and they are called a number of things. But if you don't do that, you will have, N1, cost overruns that start running out of control. That, most particularly these days, is paramount because you're dealing and probably getting into even a higher period of inflation. And then you've got project creep. As you get into the details, things start to get embellished. People change their minds, et cetera, and the thing, again, starts to spiral. And your end result is you don't get good quality, which is a prime requisite, under control budget and at a cost, which is under control, and a number of other smaller objectives. But that's the first one. The other principle that was alluded to here, but I'd like to sort of paint the picture a bit more. Somebody said when I was doing some lawn bowling at Oakmount the other day, and a very good point, so I hope I'm not trampling on your turf if you're coming after me. We live in a confined boundary. We were talking about one little parcel coming up. Well, there's 10 miles by 4 miles or 5 miles wide, and it's got a wall around it, basically. It's confined. You're not going to put any much more houses in, et cetera. So we got a fixed population. Again, if you're going to fix population, zero growth, I think you should be concentrating on keeping buildings up to date and renovating so that it's not expanding the number of facilities, but improving them, as in fairways. Thanks to Norm Dixon. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Cynthia Rogers is next. And then Sherry Wenning. And after her is Mary Wright.
Sherry Wenning, 157333. I'm here representing the Lakeview Outdoor Shuffleboard Club. We'd like to go on record that our club opposes the proposal for the pack being on the west side of Lakeview. This proposal will displace 2 long-standing clubs and will impact over 550 club members. Shuffleboard is a relatively small club with only 55 members, but has been in existence at Lakeview since 1960. Likewise, I believe the lawn bowling has also occupied the space since the center was built. Recently, we read about the displacement of our 2 clubs in the Sun City Independent, which was very disheartening. It exhibits a lack of transparency and poor communications. Several weeks ago, the lawn bowlers caught wind of this proposal, and when they questioned someone here on the board, they were told to ignore the rumors. Sounds to me like the rumor mill is doing a better job at communicating. How hard would it have been to call the 2 club presidents and give them a heads up on this project and discuss the implications? I have yet to hear anything about the future location of Shuffleboard. Instead, you have over 550 club members that are irate at the board and want answers. Here's a few of our questions. What is the cost of relocating Shuffleboard and lawn bowling? And is there a line item in this proposal to include those costs? Because you need a project cost that encompasses all the changes that will be in effect. When will the displaced clubs be approached for their input on the relocation and the facilities needed, so that, again, you can include it as a line item? Have you taken into consideration how many club members would be impacted? And I think we've probably beat this to death, but the view of the lake seems to be a primary driver with this proposal. How will the patrons of the theater see the lake when they're seated in the theater? Or is it only for those 3 to 4 minutes it takes them to walk into the theater? Seems to me that RCSC has other unutilized space that would not impact 2 long-standing clubs. It would not displace over 550 members. Why not choose one of those alternatives? Thank you.
Okay, Mary Wright is next. And then after her is Glenn Carden.
Oh. Hello. I'm 103742. That's what I am. As a resident of Sun City for the past 16 years, I am disappointed at the board's consideration of this proposal to site the Performing Arts Building on Lakeview Lawn Bowling Greens. I ask the board to consider this Lakeview site. This site, while offering residents, the city, while offering residents great residential recreational activities, has very limited open, tranquil green space to enjoy leisurely outdoor strolls. Lakeview, with its lovely greens, lakeside walks, picnic spots, sailboat club, paddle boat use, the ambience is absolutely gorgeous, especially for those residents who are now not super active. Where else in this city can one go sit outside under a tree in the shade, relax, have a picnic or a stroll. This is the only spot in the city that provides this relaxed, quiet ambience. It's the only recreation centre that has greens, tranquility, lake. Sun City uses photographs of Lakeview in its promotional ads, features to attract residents. A structure, no matter how aesthetically pleasing and architecturally sound, is still more concrete while removing green space. It should always, in my opinion, be a last resort to justify accommodating one activity at the price of eliminating another couple. This board's duty is to represent us, the residents, and work on our behalf, developing and reviewing plans and proposals. The architect's perspective of where to site a building is limited to the physical and financial aspects of building the project. Your mandate is much more complex. I would ask that you consider rethinking this proposal. Perhaps it's time that we used some creative and inspiring ideas to use the areas south of Grand. That's our heritage. That's the city of the city of Sun City.
Okay, Glenn Carden is next, and then Jean Totten. What? Ditto? Okay, so Jean Totten, and then Val Tilton. I don't know. She was there. So he said that.
Jean Totten, 148753. Thank you for your patience as we all strive to make Sun City continue to be the best. I realize it's much later than anyone wants it to be, but I do appreciate you letting us all speak. One of the things that I've noticed from all of these people who have spoken is passion, but also expertise in different fields. We have a real estate person. We have another person who was a project manager. One of the things we've always spoke about is how can we utilize our membership better? Maybe spending some of our time trying to get these people to give us advice before these types of decisions are made would be helpful. Most of what I would want to say, everyone has said. I'm going to go out on a limb, however, and say my personal preference right now is that we put a moratorium on any building in Sun City until we have master plans. Master plans. We don't need another building to maintain until we get everything that we have in order first. And we won't have the contention that has appeared by such a quick, less than 30 days that you gave us. Less than 30 days you presented on October 31st, and you're voting today? The last thing I'd like to mention, and I'm sorry if this hurts, but Director Collins, Director Fimmel, Director Reitmeyer, Vice President McAdam, Director Borski, Director Keiss, Director Ruff. On January 18th, myself, John Fast, and you sat up at Mountain View, and made a presentation to the group about the elements that were necessary to go forward. The last slide of Preston's presentation, the last line of Preston's presentation said, Lakeview lawn bowling, shuffleboard, mini golf, and fishing will not be touched. Thank you.
Val, before you was a Dwayne Maxwell, but you're a privilege card holder, so I'm not going to call your name, just to let you know why I didn't if you're still here. So Val Tilton, and then after that is Faith Morgan Putman. Thanks, Val.
Hello. I again am the president of Lakeview Lawn Bowling. I appreciate all the work that you do, and I know it's a very difficult decision. I think that the PAC building being built at that location seems really rushed. Lakeview is due for an overhaul in the near future. Mountain View was due first. Now Mountain View has been put to the side. Now they're wanting to put this building there. Without a planning and without a master plan, you're putting a building there, and now you're going to try to build Lakeview around this building, and it's going to be more difficult. Are you going to end up having to change that building? As far as Mountain View, and I realize you said you would move us lawn bowling greens at Mountain View. The problem with Mountain View is you have promised that to pickleball, so you are putting pickleball courts there. Lawn bowling is a very quiet game. It takes concentration and focus. If you're next to pickleball courts all the way around you with bang, 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 it is not going to be a desirable place, location for the lawn bowling. And so you're going to get people that just don't want to go down there. The next thing is you're going to say our numbers are down, so we're going to take that away. And this is all on a promise that you say you will put lawn bowling there. It takes years to get a lawn bowling green to the levels that we have. They're not playable for a while. The costs are exorbitant. We have no clubhouse down there to house 2 greens. You would have to be adding clubhouses. You'd have to be adding lighting systems. You'd have to be adding equipment systems. That's a lot of expense. And is this something that's been discussed with everybody? Do you even know the costs of these estimates for doing this? I think not. It is important that we have these 2 greens at 2 locations. We just came off an international event, which went wonderfully. We can no longer do that. When you take those greens away, we're stopped. And, you know, we have no way. If you don't immediately start working on them, and you're not going to do that because you haven't even decided we're really going to be there, it's just a promise and lip service. So thank you.
Faith Morgan Putman, and then Ed Kaiser.
Good morning. My name is Faith Morgan Putman. My number is 169-322, and I'm fairly new to Sun City. My husband and I moved here about 1.5 years ago. We happen to be lake owners, and I'm here today to speak for 65 people. I have a petition, which I will pass to whoever needs to get it, from the lake owners. So our concerns as lake owners, you heard one of our members who lives on the lake now, she talked of some of the things, but for one thing, we do not want to see the removal of the lawn bowls or the shuffleboard facilities. That space is an open space with trees, there's barbecues. We boat around there and see people sitting there barbecuing or fishing, and we like to stop and talk to people. It is one of the only areas that you don't have to actually access through a card, where you can actually sit and enjoy the lake without going in, especially after the hours. So our next thing is, even with this building that we only heard about in the newspaper about a month ago, my husband and I just came back from being gone for the summer, we had no knowledge whatsoever that there was a consideration for Lakeview. That was the first that we had heard of it. I actually went around to all of these homes on the lake, and no one else had heard that it was going to be moved there prior to that independent article that came out. And I spoke to almost every single, in fact, I spoke to every single person who signed this petition here. But we're concerned about inadequate parking. And I know that I heard that you said that, yeah, well, we have to have enough parking spaces, but I'm actually retired law enforcement, and I can tell you that people take the shortest path to get to a building. And we actually live on Buccaneer Way, and these people who signed this are not just concerned about the parking spaces, but we're concerned about them parking around the corner on Buccaneer Way. That's going to cause a lot of traffic, not only for us to be able to park our vehicles, but noise coming and going from Del Webb Ave into our little enclave there. The next issue is that is one of the only areas that is truly open where you can see a nice sunset from the Lakeview, what we call the island. So people love to go over there and look at the sunset, and that is one of the only open areas to the west that you can really see a great sunset if you're on foot. So we can see it by going on our boats, but what about the rest of Sun City, the community? Next, we feel that this is going to hinder this RC Yacht Club. We don't know where you have decided to move that, but as boat owners, we know that that's where they sail, and we love to make sure that they have a little area of their own, and we don't even go over there. And since I'm speaking for 65 people, I think I should get a little bit more time, like you gave that lady whose husband wasn't here.
Go through the routine.
Okay, because I want to go through, I want everybody to know what's on this petition. We definitely believe that this cost is unnecessary, especially since we have Sundial here. We want to know why this stage can't be built out and at less money than $14 million. We just want answers to that, or at least somebody looking at that as to why this can't be built out where you have the backstage that people can come in and change sets. We also are concerned about, we know that there was a history, but I've only been here a year and a half, and that there were other viable location options available, and that previous boards had already approved it to Mountain View, and that's where all of us thought it was going. So we want to know why that was shut down. We feel that it was, again, we've heard about people saying the board wasn't transparent on this as it came up in 1 month. We've had no communication or consultation with the Lakeview owners. And one of our biggest concerns is the impact on the community. Have we done a proper impact study? And we need a legal impact study before we go forward. There's a lot of community members that are, going to be impacted by this building. Next, the noise disruption. I think Linda touched on it earlier. She's a lake owner, but voices travel on a lake. We can hear everything. We can hear people talking on the island. My concern is you're talking about a view for the pack. Where are these people going to go during their intermission? Out on the lake. And that time after 7 o'clock, when the actual island is closed, is the one time the lake owners get a final piece of not having to hear people boating or talking or music playing, things like that. So that is a huge concern, the noise disruption, especially for the events, but also practices. The structure would not be in sympathy with the natural environment. Many people touched on that where the trees and the barbecues. Also, the houses that will butt right up to that building, instead of seeing the trees, the flag, the open air, they're going to be looking right at a building. Right in their face. They see nothing else in their backyards, and that came directly from those homeowners I spoke to. There's no reasonable justification in our minds for an urgent decision to pass this proposal today without the inclusion of all the affected parties, maybe the legal impact study, the people that I've heard that said we need to look at the whole picture of Lakeview, that we're going to be doing some sort of renovation, is what I've been hearing. But that whole thing needs to be studied before we just say, yes, we're going to do a building. And we're voting today, and 10 days later, guess what? We're voting again. That's not ethical. It's not in the community's interest to do that. Take your time and listen to the community, please. Finally, we are asking that this board that called this meeting on November 11th, a holiday, there are a lot of people in this community that haven't even heard about it, that we're moving it to Lakeview. I'm not talking about just the Lake people. I'm talking about Sun City as a whole needs to know more about this. And so we're asking you to suspend any decisions making, this board making a decision on this today, to go a little bit further and make sure all of Sun City community knows what's getting ready to happen, because this is just too quick. So again, please hear what I'm saying, because I really think that when you're making a decision that's this big, $14 million, in actuality, we should probably have like a referendum or a special vote of the entire community. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Ed Kaiser's next, and then Pat Seberg.
I'm not Ed Kaiser, and he had to leave, and that something about lunch.
Sorry, speaking for him?
My name's Pete Lunchuk. I'm the president of Mountain View Fairway Lawn Bowls Club. Excuse me? Oh, my number? 108283. Thank you very much. And first of all, in that being a volunteer, it's a hard job. I understand all of you up there are volunteers as I am, and that I have a group of people and that depend on me and ask me to discuss things for them. Today, I just like to go over a little bit of history we've got here. And at Mountain View started out, they wanted to do something at Mountain View. They got a committee together, a SAC committee. We went over everything we could think of, all different viable options of what could be done at Mountain View to make it work. Based on that, we had 9 different proposals. We voted on the proposals. We came up with 4. Out of the 4, Annette, we took it to the people. We discussed all of the different proposals with the people in town hall meetings and the rest of it. Ultimately, they were all rejected by, I'm not going to point fingers at it, but the bottom line in that was they were rejected, and unknowns to us, and that somebody came up with another proposal. And part of that proposal was to put the pack at Lakeview over in the corner. And $14 million that was going to go there. They were going to pickleballs, and the rest of it go at Mountain View, and we're going to lose the green at Mountain View. And that, we thought that was it. Now this has come up. The thing that was all of that was done by residents of Sun City. All of the SAC committee were people of Sun City that were voicing their opinion of where this should be. And what I'm hearing today is the board has taken a recommendation from an architect that is not a resident of Sun City. That concerns me. It concerns me in the fact that we're not being listened to, and we need to be listened to, and that we are Sun City. All of us here are Sun City and will be Sun City in the future. The only other thing that I want to make a point of is rather than new buildings, I think fiscally we should be looking at renovation. Renovation, yes, it can be expensive, but you have a starting point and that you go from there. With new buildings, you're going to destroy something and you're going to wind up putting something on top of it. Is it going to be viable in the future? Maybe, maybe not. But we have other concerns in Sun City. And then the other concerns that I have seen is growing cost in our dues, growing cost in our utilities, growing cost and security. That was part of the reason that I came here. There's part of the reason Ed came here, and all of us came here, and that was the fact that we do roll up the streets at 9 o'clock at night, and we can feel safe. And it's getting to the point now we can't, and that we need the board to listen to our concerns and deal with these problems. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next person is Pat Seberg. Is it Pat Seberg here? Lori Martz? Kim Black? Yay. Bill Pearson? I gotta blow my nose.
Go get her, Bill.
Hope he doesn't disappoint him.
Scary looking crowd. Thinned out better than I have. Bill Pearson, 113348. Disappointed to see the maker of the motion elected to leave before he heard the rest of us.
Doctor's appointments.
I'm sorry?
Doctor's appointments.
Yeah, we all have them. The maker of the motion, though, is a big deal. You don't think so? I do.
I understand, but...
Okay, thank you. You want me to hurry up? I'm sorry, Tom. I got it. I've been bowler 20 years, but I'm going to tell you I'm not here to talk as a bowler. Not even a little bit. Because that's the prejudices that we all bring to everything we do as an elected officer, as a committee member, as a club member. We have our biases. We have our preference. We have the things that we love. And we become passionate about them. I'm a little bit odd because my passion is a little bit different. As a historian, understanding how we were built and why we were so successful is really contained in the success of Sun City. We were community-owned, community-driven, member-driven, and we learned to listen. Unfortunately, we drifted. Wasn't any of your fault, wasn't Matthew's fault, wasn't anybody over there's fault. We just drifted. We got away from listening to members and we just started doing stuff. And then we tuned out clubs and we started doing more stuff. Somebody way smarter than us had a vision, and that's what happens when you don't listen. You become smarter than the players and the people in the community that should help you make decisions. As I looked at what has happened over the last 20 years, because I've been here 21, I've seen something that's been terribly disappointing to me. I had the good privilege of working with really smart people, and they taught me that the ability to succeed is really embodied in your planning, in your ability to look to the future. Sun City was built by those greatest generation. I'm a first stage baby boomer. We're done. The next generation, Gen X, Gen Y, we have to plan for the future. And if we don't, we won't be successful. If you think that this project, this Lakeview project, can be piecemealed, a building here, something done 5 years later, something done 10 years later, you're wrong. It is a single project that should be done in total, $40, $50, $60 million. And I'm going to tell you this, if you don't do it right, we may not have a future. So thank you very much.
Tad Daughters. Last one.
Tad Daughters, 117436. I'm here for the players. I appreciate your taking the time and effort to herd us cats. I was here for the entire architect's presentation. I do have one positive comment. I liked the back access that they had in that. However, the patrons that we have and most of the other groups that are doing presentations couldn't care less about the view, since we have patrons that are looking at the stage, not outside. At this point, having seen the entire architect's presentation, I have a number of questions. First, handicapped access. The distance between parking and the PAC is going to be difficult for a good many handicapped people to manage. Second, how about handicapped parking? Is that going to limit the access for the rest of Lakeview? What about dropping off people? There's no access to a drop-off there anywhere near close to the entrance. What about set building? Is that going to be on-site? If so, is there enough room for it? Or are we going to be doing the set building still at Mountain View and transporting? And who's going to do the transporting? There was nothing mentioned as far as the number of seats that is going to be included in this particular building. I'd like to know. And finally, what are the funds going to be available for the Mountain View rebuild if we are building here at Lakeview? Thank you.
Mr. President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. All right.
I just want to say
no,
one.
ma'am, you had
just
your
one
chance.
Thing. Our big, like somebody said, don't make a mistake. That beautiful building on the lake that is now a doctor's office, we refused to buy twice. And we lost that now. Let's not lose another beautiful view of the lake. We gave that to some doctor's office when it could have been ours.
Well, the competitive market outbid us. What can I say? Okay, folks, we've certainly heard your concerns. So we're going to take about 10 minutes here and then come back and give you our intention of what we're going to do here. So just hang on for about 10 minutes and we'll rejoin in session.
I said about 10 minutes.
Okay, folks, if we could get back into session here. We have, or at least I have, reached a conclusion that I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. So it's going to be my recommendation to the board here that we are not going to vote on this today. and I say this with all transparency and with all my heart, I guess, that the gridlock that's gone on here, you've come today, and thank you for coming. You've expressed your point of view terrifically, so congratulations. I'm disappointed I did not hear a lot of performing arts folks. For whatever reason, they did not come and support their point of view. But the point, I guess, is we're hearing, the master plan kind of theme. I don't see that something you do in a couple of weeks. I mean, that's going to take 18 months, something like that. So the gridlock continues. No decisions get made. No progress gets made. Nothing's going to happen at Mountain View. Nothing's going to happen at Lakeview if that's the kind of thing that's required by the membership. I'm disappointed in that. I mean, I thought the architect's presentation, they went and looked at every property. And to some extent, I think that was lost a little bit in this meeting. But you came and said, not in my backyard. And I get it. So we'll go back. We'll approach those folks again. We'll talk about master plans. But for the time being, we will not take a vote on this today.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion before the board, and the motion has to be taken care of.
Yes, thank you. That is absolutely correct.
And the originator's not here.
Who seconded? Who seconded?
I seconded it.
The originator does not.
Somebody has to make a motion to do what you're suggesting.
Okay, we would apparently need a motion to...
I move to postpone the motion to the next meeting. I move to postpone the motion until next meeting.
I second.
How about, what, did you already second?
Sherry second.
All right, discussion on that from any of the directors? I guess I would be a little inclined to postpone without a specific time frame because I'm thinking of... I know, and that's why I would not tie it to the next meeting.
A postponement goes automatically to the next meeting.
Doesn't have to.
But didn't ask you.
Jim, you can postpone to a time certain or a time uncertain. And your motion was to postpone to a time certain.
Yes, to the next meeting.
Right, and Tom is suggesting that we not do it to a time certain, but to a time uncertain. That's up to you.
It's not up to me. Once it's seconded, I have no control.
Okay.
All right.
It's been seconded. It belongs to the assembly now.
All right.
On to the next meeting.
All right, is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, I have a discussion. I think, what? I have a lot of stuff here. I think that putting a specific date on the motion to postpone is not a good idea at this time. I think that, can I just have a quick show of hands? How many people are in here are lawn bowlers and shuffleboarders? Can you raise your hands, please? See, and that's part of my concern. Really, that's all we've heard from today. There have been a few others, but 90 to 95% of the people here are lawn bowlers and shuffle bowlers, and you're here for an agenda also. My floor, ma'am.
Okay, be professional, please. Let him speak.
You gauge your time to speak. It's my turn to speak now, please. So I think postponing it to just the next meeting isn't the right thing to do. I support a postponement, but not necessarily to the next meeting because I think we need to have a little bit better decision on this. I just think postponing to a specific time, next meeting, is too soon.
Okay. Would you be interested? Jean, please. Jean, please, you're out of order. Okay, please, please, please. No, ma'am. Preston, would you, or Director Keiss, would you be interested in a friendly amendment to Director Ruff's postponement amendment at this time? To postpone it, an indefinite postponement.
Yes. I would recommend a friendly motion to change it to a postponement to an indefinite time frame.
Okay. Is there a second to that amendment? Apparently not. All right.
We've waited so long.
Okay. So
Seeing none, that fails.
seeing none, you're correct, that fails. So we're back to the original motion to postpone to the next meeting. Director Broski.
I don't have a problem postponing to the next meeting, but what's going to be happening between now and then? We're talking about a master plan we can't do between now and then. If we just keep postponing this, the cost goes up every day.
Well, that may be true, but that may be a cost the membership is willing to bear if they're uncomfortable with the proposed, that's the proposed suggestion from the architect.
I don't have a problem with the master plan. I think it's a good idea. They don't come cheap. I don't know if the membership's ready for paying for a master plan. I don't think you know what that means monetarily. I mean, if we're going to do a master plan for Sun City, you're looking at $300,000-$400,000.
But you're just talking about a master plan for Lakeview.
Just for Lakeview? Okay, that would be a very smaller cost, but it's a cost.
Folks, I know you're passionate here, and I appreciate that very much. I'm sympathetic to your concerns, but we need to still try to do business appropriately. So one conversation's at a time here, and right now it's at the board level. So thank you. All right. Director McAdam.
So I guess this might be very unpopular, but I am going to go on record to let my fellow board members know that I will be voting against the motion to postpone even to another time. I feel like that's the reason that we have two readings of motions, and we don't know whether it will pass or whether it won't pass. But there is too much that is too intertwined that if we try to get everything unintertwined before we make another step, nothing's going to happen at Mountain View for another year. And I am not willing to be party to that. So I'm just going on record as saying I will be voting against a motion to postpone. Thank you.
All right. Director Richmar.
Okay, I'm also going to be not popular. I know people say that this decision is quick, but this decision has been floating around for over a decade. When I ran last year, just come on, we let you speak, it's time I get to speak. When I ran last year, and I do not know who the lovely lady was, she got up and she spoke that 15 years ago, now 16, her husband ran for the board on the context of getting Mountain View built. If you live in the Mountain View area, you have had your strings pulled for decades, and it really isn't fair. When you look at also all the board decisions with regards to that there was a PAC plan designed, and granted it was a super fabulous expensive, and then that was tabled by a board. And then this board decided this year to create a list of elements. Those elements were put out to the architectural team. An architectural team was hired. Part of the town halls was that we listened and we said, okay, we originally said it was going to be at Lakeview. The decision was Lakeview. And then enough town halls said, no, make it Mountain View. So we're spinning down a drain. I mean, it's really, it's sad. I mean, and I am the chair of lawn bowling, and yes, there's 500 lawn bowlers. Once upon a time, there were 1,200 to 1,500 lawn bowlers with 8 greens. 500 lawn bowlers have 7 greens. We are trying to come up with a way to give you a second pair, but we have to have a launch point. And in order for the pack to get built and for Mountain View to get built, a place locating the pack decision needs to be done. And that's what you guys voted on us to give us the hard decisions. Well, there's an opportunity every election to vote on the board members, and out of the 37,213 people voted. So, I mean, that you can vote and make decisions that way, but you've asked us to be thoughtful, to research, to be dedicated and trying to come up with what's best for the community for a whole. And that's what we've been trying to do. That's what Tri-Arc and their design team has been trying to do. This Performing Arts Center with a beautiful boardwalk that would be along the shoreline could be a really good...
Please, folks, please.
Could be a really good welcoming space at Lakeview for coffee, for a wine bar, for a chance to sit and have a...
Folks, please. Go ahead.
So I really think we need to vote today, and it's a vote of 1 of 2. I think we need to just vote today. I know it's the unpopular decision, but that's my opinion.
Okay. All right. We do, any other discussion from the directors?
Correct me now, what are we?
4, 5, 6.
We're talking about, right now, the motion is on the table.
To postpone.
To postpone to the next meeting.
To the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay.
All right, and we have a second. There is no further discussion. Director Rick Meyer, will you take the roll call for that particular motion?
Okay, roll call to postpone the motion to accept the recommendation for the Tri-Arc location for the Performing Arts Center. Director Borski?
No.
You don't want to postpone? No. Okay. Director Keiss?
No.
Director Collins is absent. Vice President McAdam?
No.
Director Ruff?
No.
Fimmel's absent. Director Nedesheim?
Yes.
President Foster?
Yes.
And I vote no, with a vote of 2 yes and 5 no, and 2 absent. The motion to postpone has failed.
Okay, so the motion that's still on the table is the original motion by Director Collins regarding accepting the recommendation of the architect, and that basically gives them the, so we can move forward, that we at least have a tentative site for the PAC. Is there any further discussion of that motion by the board? Director Keiss.
Yes. I think that we have to make a decision on where the PAC goes, whether it's at Lakeview or at Mountain View. Now, whether it's at Lakeview in the specific location, I think could be up for a little bit of debate. Having sat down with the lawn bowling people and hearing the conversations, I absolutely agree that having 2 sets of dual greens in Sun City for lawn bowling is essential for the health of the organization and the sport. I agree 100% with that. But I also agree with the idea that it may not be the best plan to put a performing arts center any place at Lakeview, and I agree 100% that it should be. I agree 100% that it should be at Lakeview, but I think it should be part of a master plan for the center itself. For the gentleman that talked about not us having any goals, we built elements, we gave the architects elements, and that was all something that we have made them, we have and will continue to make them to adhere to. The problem with, so I think the question could be rephrased into, do we build the Performing Arts Center at Lakeview, or do we build it at Mountain View? And I think that might be a better way to do this. Because we have to make a decision on the location of it, because otherwise anything at Mountain View will have to be delayed until this gets settled. And this question has gone on for years and years and years. And if we keep on doing it without making a decision, it will go on for years and years and years. And that's not good for anybody. In answer to the person that said, I'm the person that did the briefing that talked about not affecting lawn bowling and shuffleboard and all that. And I did say that, but you have to understand the context that it was in. You can't just take one sentence out of an entire briefing and say, okay, that's it. At the time, our locations for a possible pack at Lakeview were over by where the tennis courts are, or in the corner of Thunderbird and Del Webb. There was no discussion of of having it at the where the lawn bowling greens are. So even though at the time that was a completely true statement, because we didn't know anything. One of the things we said from the beginning, that Director Collins said earlier, was that we were going to get professionals involved in this. And when John Fast was on the board, one of the things he said, the first thing we need to do is get professionals involved to tell us where the best location is. And that's what we've done. But one of the main reasons we selected Triarch was that we didn't know where it should be. And we selected them because they're able to give an objective outside view of what the best location is for all of Sun City. Now, I understand that does not make me popular with the lawn bowling and shuffleboard people. It may not make me happy if it goes on the other side with the tennis people and the people, mini golf people, and the people that have boats, because that will have to be destroyed and demolished if it goes over on that side. So I think that the motion to do this was not the right one. The motion should be to either put it at Mountain View or someplace at Lakeview after a master plan for Lakeview has been done.
Any other comments from directors?
Can we amend it without having him here?
I would think so.
Okay, so the second could.
He does not have to be here.
Well, so the motion that's in front of us is to accept.
Mr. President,
Director Ruff.
we can make an amendment to the motion. The person that made it does not have to be here. He gave it up once he made the motion and it was seconded. So if Preston wanted to make the motion to amend it to put the PAC at Lakeview, not saying where in Lakeview, but not at Mountain View, then that allows us to go forward on Mountain View. That allows us to spend more time to figure out what's the best location at Lakeview, and then we're at least making some progress. And if he doesn't want to make that amendment, I will.
Go ahead, Director McAdam.
Well, I'll wait for you to make the amendment, and then we'll have a discussion about the amendment.
All right. Gentlemen,
Okay.
please.
I move to amend the motion to have a decision to build the PAC either at Mountain View or at a location at Lakeview, to be decided after a master plan of the area has been done.
Is there a second to that motion?
Okay?
Okay, I'm sorry,
Mr.
your amendment
President?
fails.
I would like to make an amendment to say we are going to put it in Lakeview, place unknown in Lakeview, and Mountain View can go forward knowing that it's not going to be there.
Can you word that properly? So what is your motion again?
The motion is to amend the motion that the PAC will be built in Lakeview, and then we'll have time to review where, but we can also go forward with Mountain View after that.
Is there a second to Director Ruff's motion?
I second.
Is there any director discussion of that motion? Director McAdam.
So, I realize we're trying to square a circle here, and we're trying to figure out a way that we're not in that damned if you do and damned if you don't position. My concern about that is that I don't believe that will allow us to move forward with a decision, any decisions about Mountain View, because what happens at Mountain View is very much dependent on whether a second lawn bowling green goes there, which is very much dependent on where at Lakeview you make the decision. So I don't believe that that amendment actually moves us forward.
Understood. Director Keiss.
And I think that's a valid point, and the lawn bowling community needs to understand if we go forward with this, there's less of a guarantee that something's going to happen at Mountain View if the decision eventually becomes to put the Performing Arts Center where the lawn bowling greens are now, because if the second one isn't built as this is going on, then there really isn't much of another place to put it. So that's a danger that the lawn bowling community has if we do this. You have to understand that.
Okay. Director Borski.
We're between a rock and a hard place here. If we put the pack at Mountain View, we have a parking problem right away. You don't want people parking on, you as a group don't want people parking on your streets in front of your houses. The people in the Mountain View area don't want the same thing. So we could have another meeting, and then they can come tell us about they don't want the parking over there. We could put it in the tennis court area, and I don't know if there's any tennis players here right now, but they've been lobbying, they want more tennis courts. So if we take away tennis courts, then the tennis community is upset. No matter what we do, someone is going to be upset. Now, you came today, I understand, I read social media, I get it, you came loaded for bear, and that's fine. Don't have a problem with that. But next week, we could put a notice out that we're going to do something, and another group will come loaded for bear. We are in a place where we need to make a decision. This has been going on for 15, 20 years, and we need to do it. We just need to bite the bullet and do it. We can't give you specifics. We have to pick a spot and then allow our architects to develop and tell us what the next step is. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Chris wants
I'm sorry.
So there is no way that we are ever going to please all of you. We're just not. And I apologize. I am recovering from an illness. Not infectious, just recovering. But there's no way we can please you all. There's just no way in this particular situation. You've spoken passionately for your beliefs. And I respect that, and I've taken it on board and listened, and I care about what you think. But ultimately, a decision has to be made, because if we don't make a decision, then we do nothing. And if we do nothing, then we sit for another decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades, and Sun City will be no more. We have to make a decision. Bill was very accurate in him saying, we need to start thinking more from a planning perspective, from a master planning perspective. And maybe many of you don't care about 10 years down the road, because maybe many of you think, like I did when I moved here, this is my forever home. The only way I'm leaving is like feet first, right? So this is my forever home. So we all have to try and do what's best for everybody. And we all have our self-interests, which Bill spoke to. But if we don't do what's best for everybody, for the greater good in this situation, and say, okay, I can compromise here, or I can compromise there, we are always going to be at this point where nothing gets done.
And that is not what we need to have happen. We need, as a community, to be able to come together, listen to each other, and start providing solutions. The gentleman with his image for Meeker Mountain, that was a potential solution. Hey, have you thought about this? I respect that. Bring a solution. If you have, instead of telling me what you don't want or telling us what you don't want, tell us what you do want. We know that the majority of Sun City wants a PAC. Say that's a given. What do we do that meets everybody's needs? Not saying it is, I'm just saying, say it's a given. And we just have to start thinking more about ourselves as a community and doing what's right for the majority of us and not for the single of us. That's...
Excuse me. All right. Thank you, Director Nedeshine. That was very thoughtful. I appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, the motion that's before us, if I recall correctly now, is to amend the original Collins motion that we would build at Lakeview somewhere. Is that accurate? Yes. Yes? All right. Any other further discussion on that? All right. Director Rickschmeyer, would you attempt to make the roll call vote on that?
Please.
Okay, I have that the motion is that the PAC will be built in Lakeview. So the decision today will be that the PAC will be built in Lakeview so that Mountain View design can be built, Mountain View can be built. Is that pretty close to what we had, Jim? Okay.
I can read what Jim said.
All right, you can read what Jim said? Oh.
The motion is that the PAC will be built
Marcia,
at Lake...
microphone.
Oh, sorry. The motion is that the PAC will be built at Lakeview, and it allows us to move forward with Mountain View.
All right. Excuse me, ma'am.
You can ask her to leave.
Ma'am, you're pushing me to the point of asking you to leave. Please don't do that. I want to hear your appropriately expressed opinions, but when you're out of order and out of line, and there's that tone in that voice, that's making me a little uncomfortable. So please, just count to 10.
All right, so the motion, what Marcia just said, Vice President McAdam?
No.
Treasurer Borski?
No.
Director Nedesheim?
No.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Collins is absent. President Foster?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Fimmel is absent. It's not going to matter, it'd be a tie vote. No, I guess not. I vote against that motion.
So what's the...
The total is 3, 4, and 4 against. The motion fails.
So the motion fails. All right. Okay. We're back to square one. All right. So Director Collins' motion has yet to be closed on or voted on. Are there any other suggestions to that motion at this point in time?
I think we need to vote on the motion as it stands. For better or
Okay.
worse.
Yes.
What will change if this is postponed?
Well, I think I'm trying to listen to the membership here and their desire for some sort of longer-term plan, although I know that will take a long time. And I know that when I present that plan to you, if I'm still on the board, we'll have this, because if it's not you, it'll be golf. If it's not you, it'll be pickleball. If it's not you, it'll be the performing arts. as Director Nedesheim was saying, somebody's ox gets gored all the time, and there are no easy decisions here. So we just have to, at some point, go, this is what we truly believe is in the long-run best interest of everyone, and hopefully we can reach a compromise where lawn bowling gives a little but gets a little, pickleball gives a little but gets a little, golf gets a little but has to give up some things, and so on and so forth, so that we can reach some kind of reasonable compromise as a community. Seriously, the community, if it's going to move forward, has got to somehow unite behind a plan here. And our plan seems to be, don't do anything. And that has been what's happened for at least 10 years. That's not really a plan. And so if we're going to have as objectives that your property values continue to go up, that we attract and retain quality individuals to Sun City, and that we are able to continue to keep Sun City as a prime 55-plus community, we got to make some decisions here. And at the moment, it seems that we can't reach compromise, that every fiefdom is aligned against the other fiefdom, and we can't make compromises, and that's not sustainable. So, folks, we need to think about that. So I
think we need to vote on this original motion.
So if we vote on that original motion, that would be to accept the architect's recommendation to go to the west side of Lakeview. Now, is there any other discussion here? All right. Will you please read the roll call vote?
Can you read the motion again, please?
The motion is, let's see here. I move that the recommendation by Triarch, the architectural engineering firm designing the Mountain View project regarding the location of the proposed Performing Arts Center, PAC, be accepted.
Thank you.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Nedesheim?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins is absent. President Foster?
No.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Fimmel is absent, and I vote.
Lakeview or Mountain View? You said Mountain View.
The motion was, I move that the recommendation by Triarch, the architect engineering firm designing the Mountain View project, of which PAC is part of this umbrella, regarding the location of the proposed Performing Arts Center, PAC, be accepted. They proposed, their recommendation was that it goes on the west side of Lakeview. That's what we are voting on. I'm the last one to vote. And I vote yes. So that gives us 2, 4, 6. That gives us 6 yes and 1 no and 2 abstain.
Thank you for.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please order. Thank you. All right, so the motion passes its first reading and will be on the agenda for the next meeting for its second reading. Thank you for all of your input and your patience to get through this. And hearing no objection, we are adjourned.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.